Part 1. Clash with the Abyssal Beings. POV switches to following Void Lord Lothar on the battlefield alongside Void King Mordecai, Void Queen Lilith, and Void Matter Scientist Dr. Erebus against the strongest Abyssal Beings, the horde of mindless Abyssal Beings which, much like their progenitor, the Abyss, only exist to destroy and consume mindlessly, rush forwards towards the army of Shadowstein, varying from as small as the human and alien soldiers to as large as the Void was. Void Lord Lothar then leaps forwards, essentially flying due to his immense speed googles greater than that of light, and begins to slice through Abyssal Beings like he once did through the minions of the Shadow King as the last champion. Oh, so long ago. He fires charged blasts from the tip of his blade with an instant of charging time, firing them like bullets from a machine gun in levels of rapidness as he wipes out many Abyssal Beings alone. POV switches to following Void King Mordecai. Void King Mordecai twirls around his Staff of Void, then swinging it forwards, corrupting and controlling multiple Abyssal Beings and making them fight for him, meanwhile summoning an army of undead soldiers and even undead archers and marksmen. Void Queen Lilith, her eyes glowing with dark power, commands the shadows to do her bidding. They form into whips that lash out at the Abyssal Horde, ensnaring them and ripping them apart, her control over the dark arts now reaching new heights. Dr. Erebus, now a being of pure void matter, unleashes his scientifically enhanced abilities. He conjures a barricade of void shields to protect the soldiers, and with a wave of his hand, sends a wave of destructive energy that obliterates the first line of Abyssal Beings. His mind races with strategies and tactics, his newfound power allowing him to manipulate the very fabric of reality itself. Void Matter Scientist Dr. Erebus then powers up further into Void Matter Scientist Supreme Erebus, deciding to focus more so on pure might than on tactics, which is a good call considering how endless the Abyssal Beings are. With a roar that shakes the very fabric of the dimension, Supreme Erebus lifts his arms into the air, and a colossal void dragon forms from the shadows, made entirely of pure void matter. It towers over the battlefield, its eyes burning with the cold light of 1,000 collapsing stars. The dragon lets out a thunderous roar, and with a beat of its wings, it takes to the skies, unleashing a torrent of dark energy that obliterates swathes of the Abyssal Horde. Seeing this reminds Void King Mordecai to call the Darkness Elemental, now the Void Elemental, into the battle as well.
Mordecai raises his staff high, the symbol of his dominion over the Void, and speaks an ancient incantation. The ground beneath them trembles, and from the shadows emerges the towering form of the Void Elemental, its eyes now gleaming with the cold light of them. Void instead of the dark flames of the Shadow Realm. It has grown more powerful, now a being of both Shadow and Void. A true force of nature, its head, that of the draconic Dark Leviathan, previously before the fusion that formed it, roars out and launches out a charged blast from its mouth. Then many Abyssal Beings merge together into one mighty Abyssal Being that stand tall and mighty, just as much so as the Void Elemental itself. Mighty Abyssal Being and the Void Elemental lock eyes, a silent challenge passing between them. The air around them crackles with energy as the two titans clash, their roars shaking the very fabric of reality. The ground splits and the skies darken as they fight, each blow resonating with the power of their respective domains. Void Lord Lothar then comes flying in, peppering the mighty Abyssal Being with rapidly fire. Charged blasts shot from the tip of his blade, doing more damage to it than even any of the Void Elemental's attacks. The mighty Abyssal Being, feeling the pressure of the relentless attacks, decides to retaliate with a swipe of its massive hand, but Lothar anticipates the move and darts away at a speed that seems to defy reality itself, leaving only the off-road of his cape fluttering in the wind. Void Lord Lothar then charges up a charged attack with his blade, dodging attacks all of the way, before then surprisingly not firing the blast, but instead absorbing it into himself, massively increasing his power, as he then blitzes the mighty Abyssal Being and slices off one of its arms before it can even react. The creature bellows in pain and rage, the shadowy aura around Lothar's blade now pulsing, with a mix of dark and void energy. The battlefield itself seems to darken in, responds to the power surging through Lothar's veins. Mordecai, seeing the opportunity, commands the enhanced void elemental to strike again, and it obeys. Its shadowy form lunging forward with the grace of a predator, the elemental's tentacles latch onto the injured, mighty abyssal being, and it begins to drain the creature's essence, feeding the stolen power back to Lothar. Void Lord Lothar then charges up another charged attack. Then the Void element backs off as Void Lord Lothar fires the charged attack from the tip of his blade at the mighty abyssal being, completely obliterating it upon impact. The explosion of dark and void energy cells shot webs through the battlefield, knocking back both friends and foes alike. When the dust settles, the mighty abyssal being is no more, and Lothar stands there, blades smoking, a grim smile on his face. Meanwhile, Void King Mordecai, Void Queen Lilith, and Void Matter Scientist Supreme Erebus decide to also use this battle to show off just how immensely powerful they have become. Void King Mordecai, feeling the power of his enhanced dark magic, decides to test his limits. He conjures a swarm of shadowy tendrils, each one tipped with a deadly blade. He sends them flying towards a horde of lesser abyssal beings, and they slice through the monsters like a scythe through wheat, leaving a path of carnage in their wake. The beings scream in agony, their cries a symphony of fear and despair that fills the air. Void Queen Lilith, on the other hand, chooses to showcase her newfound power in a more dramatic fashion. She raises her staff high, and a pillar of pure black energy erupts from the ground beneath her. The pillar grows taller, stretching into the sky, and then splits into 100 smaller beams that streak towards the abyssal forces. Each beam finds its mark, obliterating the creatures it touches with a flash of dark light. The ground trembles with the force of her magic, and the air reeks of ozone. Supreme Erebus, not to be outdone, calls forth a tempest of void and shadow. The sky above the battlefield darkens as tornadoes of pure energy swirl into existence, each one a maelstrom of destruction. They twist and turn, ripping through the abyssal ranks and leaving nothing but ash in their path. The remaining abyssal beings retreat in fear, realizing that the power of the Shadowstein leaders has grown far beyond what they had anticipated. The Void Elemental, also not wanting to be left out, decides to show off as well. The Elemental, now brimming with the essence of the slain mighty abyssal being, grows to an even more terrifying size. It opens its gaping maw and unleashes a torrent of shadow and void energy, the likes of which the battlefield has never seen. The dark river of power sweeps across the ground, swallowing everything in its path. Abyssal beings are erased from existence, leaving nothing but a trail of oblivion. The sheer might of the elemental's attack causes the very fabric of reality to tremble, and the Shadowstein forces feel a surge of hope and awe at their side's power. Meanwhile, undead Butler God Emperor Aldrich doesn't want to just be useless. Despite literally being a puppet, and only having been resurrected to serve the Darkest Ones, so he also shows off at least as much as he can, considering most of the things on the battlefield could destroy him in an instant. Aldrich, driven by a newfound sense of purpose, despite his lack of free will, uses his newfound necromantic abilities to call forth a horde of undead soldiers. With a wave of his hand, skeletal warriors rise from the ground, armed with ancient weapons and shields that gleam with the light of forgotten battles. They march towards the retreating abyssal forces, blocking their escape and adding to the chaos and carnage of the battlefield. And, of course, this all happened within an instant, as God Emperor of the Void Alpha had rushed forwards and slain and absorbed the Abyss into himself, becoming God Emperor of the Abyss Alpha, which also caused Void Lord Lothar, Void King Mordecai, Void Queen Lilith, Void Matter Scientist drive Supreme Erebus, and the Void Elemental to ascend even further into Abyssal Lord Lothar, Abyssal King Mordecai, Abyssal Queen Lilith, Abyssal Matter Scientist drive Supreme Erebus, and the Abyssal Elemental respectively, increasing all of their power infinity-fold. before God Emperor of the Abyss Alpha then mysteriously passes out. The Shadow Stein leaders, now imbued with the power of the Abyss, look around at the carnage they have wrought. The once formidable abyssal forces are now scattered and retreating, their dark essence fading into the void. The battlefield is a grim tableau of destruction, with the remnants of the abyssal beings dissolving into shadow and mist. Then they all suddenly ascend in power yet again due to an unknown force. Grand Author Jamie's Moi. Abyssal Lord Lothar becomes Grand Lord Lothar. Abyssal King Mordecai becomes Grand King Mordecai. Abyssal Queen Lilith becomes Grand Queen Lilith. Abyssal Matter Scientist Drive Supreme Erebus becomes Grand Scientist Drive Supreme Erebus. And the Abyssal Elemental becomes the Grand Elemental, as then God Emperor of the Abyss Alpha awakens, now as Grand Emperor Alpha. His power truly beyond comprehension, beyond existence even. In fact, it is beyond reality in which existence is within and transcended by. The world itself seems to quiver and bend around Grand Emperor Alpha as he stands, the very fabric of reality reflecting his power. His eyes, once filled with darkness, now glow with a light so intense it pierces the very soul of anyone who dares to look at him. His aura is that of a star-going supernova, a cataclysmic force that could reshape worlds. Grand Emperor Alpha then snaps his fingers, changing existence and reality as a whole, completely eradicates segregation, war, strife, and suffering as a whole into true non-existence, destroying their current reality and instantaneously replacing it with a better reality, a new reality.
Part 2, a new reality time itself seems to start again, as Alpha in this reality grows up without losing his parents or his home, and when his dark and shadow magic eventually awakens, instead of him being shunned and hunted down for it, he is celebrated and praised for it, and is able to easily reach not only his full potential with it, but his true potential, and instead of the sacred relic having been created for war, it was instead created as a symbol of peace and its power, and ended up far more powerful than the one from the previous reality, and ended up in the hands of the Empire of Sanctity at first, but became a tool that united the world under true peace, and the holder of it was the Alpha of this new reality when he eventually came to Europe and became the leader of it, and became the first and only God Emperor of this new reality, truly representing not just the perfect balance between light and dark, but the fact of how a balance isn't necessary for peace, as shown by how dark and shadow magic is preferred and used more commonly in this new reality.
And then there are those that came from the previous reality, the leaders of the Empire of Shadowstein, including Grand Emperor Alpha, who ruled for many centuries over the peaceful world, before having the new reality's Alpha be his successor. Grand Lord Lothar got to meet his past self Marcus, and saw the difference of how he was back then, and how far he had truly come. Grand King Mordecai met his past self, the expert alchemist from the east from the Empire of Frost, Spire Mordecai, and Grand Queen Lilith met her own past self, the envoy of the Kingdom of Scotland, and of course, more was learned of Alpha's past, such as that Lady Winter was a daughter of his from during his time as the Shadow God. But now, even after his death, Grand Emperor Alpha watches over existence, now named Alpha in his memory as the true god of it, and peace reigns well, for a while.
Part 3, one last loose end for, you see, there was one other person brought over from the old reality, one not quite as peaceful. POV switches over to now Phoenix Emperor Kato of Blazing Sun in Japan. I knew that Alpha was up to no good. Phoenix Emperor Kato of Blazing Sun says before punching through a wall in his throne room, the once defeated Emperor of the Blazing Sun has had enough. The sight of the world changing around him, the whispers of a new order that didn't include his own empire's dominance, fueled his anger and resentment. He had been watching from the shadows, his power diminished but not forgotten. The rise of Grand Emperor Alpha and the unification of the world under his peaceful rule was a thorn in his side that grew by the day. Phoenix Emperor Cato of Blazing Sun then absorbs the Phoenix Flame catalyst into himself, becoming Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato of Blazing Sun, before then announcing to his Empire of Blazing Sun that they will be conquering not just Asia, not just the world or the universe, but all of existence. With a fiery resolve, Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato gathers his most loyal and skilled warriors, imbuing them with the essence of the Phoenix Flame. They train tirelessly, their eyes set on the distant horizon where they believe the power of Grand Emperor Alpha resides. They prepare for a war that will not just change their world, but all of reality as they know it. Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato of Blazing Sun then brings literally his entire military with him and goes off to conquer the entire world. To start things off, of course, beginning with Asia, instantly launching an invasion of the Empire of Frostspire. The Empire of Frostspire, caught off guard by the sudden aggression, scrambles to respond. The Jade Guardians, once the vanguard of peace and protection, are now called to the front lines to face an enemy they never expected to fight again. Empress Sora, now Grand Empress Sora, watches the horizon with a heavy heart, knowing that the peace they had worked so hard to build is now under threat. Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato of Blazing Sun then suddenly rushes forwards, his power immensely greater than back in the year 719999 in the previous reality, and slices through the entire military of the Empire of Frostspire and of Grand Empress Sora, with no difficulty or regret. He will rule. The battle is swift and brutal. The once proud Frostspire military is no match for the fiery onslaught of the Grand Phoenix Emperor's enhanced forces. The Jade Guardians, once untouchable, fall like leaves in a storm, their celestial jade armor shattering under the relentless assault of the Phoenix-infused steel. The screams of the dying fill the air, a stark contrast to the serene silence that had once reigned in this world.
Grand Empress Sora, her eyes wide with shock and horror, watches her empire crumble before her. The very essence of the world she had dedicated her life to, protecting, is now being consumed by the flames of her former enemy. She tries to muster her chi to fight back, but the power within her feels diminished, a mere shadow of what it once was. Then, suddenly, in the flash of a sword and the sound of flames, she is in two pieces rather than one, at the hands of Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato of Blazing Sun, and his blade of Phoenix Ash enhanced Phoenix Steel. The ground shakes as the once beautiful Frostspire Palace is engulfed in an inferno. The Jade Guardians, once the pride of the Empire, lay defeated, their crystalline armor shattered and melted by the intense heat of the Phoenix Flame. The screams of the citizens fill the air, a stark contrast to the tranquility that had once reigned supreme. Empress Sora, her body lying lifeless on the cold stone, had underestimated the power of the enemy she had thought was long vanquished. Her mind, however, is not at peace. Her spirit, bound to the very essence of the celestial jade, refuses to let go. It fights against the encroaching darkness, seeking a way to avenge her empire and restore balance to the world. But then, even her spirit is burnt away by the might of the Phoenix Flame Catalyst, by the power of Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato. The world of new reality trembles as the Phoenix Flame Catalyst feeds on the life essence of the jade, growing stronger with every piece of the once mighty Empress it consumes. The sky darkens, and the very fabric of existence seems to quiver as the power of the Phoenix overwhelms the land. As then the continents of Asia, Oceania, Africa, North America, and South America quickly fall victim to Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato of Blazing Sun, leaving only Europe now. But the continent of Europe has power far superior to that of the other continents put together, with the Empire of Sanctity led by the arcane magical master Emperor Marcus Aurelius, not a god emperor in the new reality, but arguably almost as powerful as one, and Emperor Marcus, an extremely skilled and powerful warrior also known as the Last Champion. The Empire of Frosthaven led by Emperor Thoric I and II, two quite powerful but immensely resourceful leaders, and of course, all of it is led by God Emperor Alpha of this new reality, greater in power than most versions of the Alpha from the previous reality, as well as multiple warriors both from this new reality. such as Lady Winter and this reality's Avatar of the Elements and True Elemental Guardian, as well as the Storm Leviathan and Frost Inferno Phoenix, as well as, of course, Lady Winter, who can transform into Upto True Goddess Winter, as well as, of course, if necessary, warriors from the previous reality, such as Grand Lord Lothar, Grand King Mordecai, Grand Queen Lilith, Grand Scientist Drive. Supreme Erebus, and the Grand Elemental, as well as Geralt the Lich King, Legion the Demon Lord, and Isolde the Vampire Queen. The alliance of these powerful leaders and beings, all dedicated to the peace that Grand Emperor Alpha has brought forth, quickly gather their forces and prepare to face the invading Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato. They stand united, their determination as unyielding as the very elements they command. Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato arrives leading the entire military of his empire of Blazing Sun and begins to battle the armies of Europe, while only the weaker leaders approach to battle him, such as Marcus Aurelius, Marcus, Thoric I and II, Lady Winter, Geralt the Lich King, Legion the Demon Lord, Isolde the Vampire Queen, Avatar of the Elements, the True Elemental Guardian, the Storm Leviathan, and the Frost Inferno Phoenix, while the stronger leaders decides to wait until they are needed, as to not waste their strength if they don't have to. The battle is fierce, with each side displaying their might and determination. Marcus Aurelius's alchemy clashes with Cato's fiery blade, the two emperors locked in a dance of power and strategy. Meanwhile, Thoric I and II, wielding ancient runic artifacts, fall upon the icy wrath of Frosthaven, their combined strength creating a barrier of ice and snow that slows the relentless march of the Phoenix's forces. But in truth, of the leaders, the only one able to directly keep up with Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato is Lady Winter, particularly as True Goddess Winter. Lady Winter, now fully embracing her role as the True Goddess Winter, steps forth to confront Cato. Her icy gaze meets his fiery one, and the two lock in a duel of gods. The clash of their elemental powers sends shockwaves through the battlefield, the very air around them crackling with the intensity of their conflict. The snowfall thickens, the air growing colder with each strike she makes, her frosty breaths painting the air with every exhale. Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato fully powers up, unleashing the full might of the Inferno Ignition Core, which he had also absorbed along with the Phoenix Flame Catalyst, heating up the entire planet at once, and even a bit more with his aura alone. The snow and ice around Lady Winter begin to melt as the heat from Cato's power intensifies. Yet, she stands firm, her own power of absolute zero pushing back against the fiery onslaught. The two leaders are a spectacle to behold, their elemental powers dueling in a display of beauty and brutality that leaves the other combatants momentarily stunned. True Goddess Winter then suddenly stabs forwards, piercing Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato with her blade of ice, and surprisingly impaling him, seemingly killing him as he then turns into a pile of crackling ash. The battlefield falls silent as the Alliance leaders stare in shock and disbelief. The once invincible threat to their world lies defeated before them, vanquished by the hand of the one they had all underestimated. The ash that was once Grand Phoenix Emperor, Cato is blown away by the harsh winter winds, leaving no trace of his existence.
Part 4, Grand Phoenix God Emperor Kaitothan. The ashes return to their place and begin to crackle more brightly. The ashes then burst into flames, and from those flames rises Grand Phoenix Emperor Cato. But now he is far greater. Now he is Grand Phoenix God Emperor Cato. The ground trembles as he emerges, his new form cloaked in the fiery essence of the Phoenix Flame Catalyst. His eyes, once filled with anger, now burn with a divine power that seems to challenge the very fabric of reality itself. The Alliance leaders, once filled with hope and victory, now stand in awe and fear as they realize the true extent of the power they face. His aura then unleashes, burning away the entire blizzard in an instant, as two massive phoenix wings then emerge from his back, as his phoenix armor merges into him, and his phoenix steel sword and spear turn into true phoenix fire as well, as his power in all ways unimaginably increases to a seemingly infinite degree. The Alliance leaders exchange terrified glances, understanding that they have underestimated their foe. The battle resumes with a ferocity that dwarfs the previous engagements. The Phoenix God Emperor Kato moves with a speed and power that seems to defy the very laws of physics, leaving a trail of fire and destruction in his wake. Grand Phoenix God Emperor Kato then pierces right through True Goddess Winter with his Phoenix Spear, then slices her asunder with his Phoenix Blade. The Alliance leaders watch in horror as True Goddess Winter, their strongest hope, is torn apart by the unstoppable force of Grand Phoenix God Emperor Kato. The snowfall around them turns crimson as her lifeblood stains the once pure snow. Despite their fear, they stand firm, knowing that the fate of their world rests on their shoulders. Then following this, Marcus Aurelius, Marcus, Thorok Iron II, and even Geralt the Lich King, Legion, the Demon Lord, and Isolde the Vampire Queen are slain. Even Isolde's regenerative capabilities aren't enough to survive even a single attack from Grand Phoenix.
Then the Storm Leviathan, the avatar of the elements, the true elemental guardian, and the Frost Inferno Phoenix rush forwards too, attempt to stop Grand Phoenix God Emperor Kato. But even they are no match, as he swiftly slays the Storm Leviathan, the avatar of the elements, and the true elemental guardian, then absorbing the Frost Inferno Phoenix into himself, ascending further, increasing his power even more seemingly infinitely, as then in rushes the Grand Elemental and Grand Phoenix God Emperor Kato, while visibly somewhat struggling, still clearly holds the upper hand, and defeats the Grand Elemental, absorbing the Frost Phoenix and Inferno Phoenix from within it into him, killing it in the process, and causing him to ascend even further, becoming true Grand Phoenix God Emperor Kato. As his power multiplies by a seemingly infinite degree, Grand Queen Lilith then rushes in at true Grand Phoenix God Emperor Kato and begins unleashing dark, shadow, void, abyss, arcane, and even grand magic in an attempt to defeat him, putting up an even better fight than the Grand Elemental. The battlefield is engulfed in a cacophony of clashing elemental forces as Lilith, fueled by the power of her Queen's scepter and her own fiery determination, unleashes a barrage of spells that would make even the gods tremble. Her eyes glow with the intensity of 1,000 suns as she weaves a tapestry of destruction, each spell more powerful than the last, though eventually even she falls, as true Grand Phoenix God Emperor Kato spears her on his Phoenix Spear and holds her impaled in the air. She then, with the last of her strength, blasts true Grand Phoenix God Emperor Kato with her Queen's scepter with the strongest spell she is even capable of. The impact sends a shockwave through the very fabric of reality, the skies crackling with dark and fiery energy for a moment. It seems as if the world might end, but instead, it only serves to knock true Grand Phoenix God Emperor Kato back. The force of Lilith's final attack leaving a gaping hole in his chest, he then regenerates, and from regenerating his power dramatically increases even further. Then Grand King Mordecai rushes forwards at him, summoning armies of undead and blasting every spell he has at true Grand Phoenix God Emperor Kato in rage for him, killing his wife. The battlefield becomes a whirlwind of shadow and fire as Mordecai's undead hordes clash with Kato's divine phoenix flames. The ground shakes with the power of their spells, and the sky is obscured by the dark clouds of Mordecai's necromantic power. Each blow that Kato lands is met with an unyielding counter from the king's spectral blade. The two seemingly unstoppable forces locked in a dance of destruction. True Grand Phoenix God Emperor Kato. Then, with a swing of his phoenix, blade wipes away Grand King Mordecai's entire army, then impaling him with his phoenix blade as, much like his wife, Grand King Mordecai, in his last moments, with the last of his strength unleashes the strongest attack he can, as he unleashes a wave of shadow, darkness, void, abyss, arcane magic, and grand magic that enters into true Grand Phoenix God Emperor Cato and begins to destroy him from within, all of the while trapping him in place. The once mighty Emperor of Blazing Sun laughs maniacally as he watches his former allies and enemies fall before him. Yet, as the dark magic of Mordecai's final assault ravages his body, his expression twists in pain. The shadowy tendrils wrap around him, squeezing the very essence from his divine form. His flaming aura flickers and dims as the power of the abyss threatens to consume him. True Grand Phoenix God Emperor Cato then regenerates and ascends in power even further, his flames bursting out and burning away the magic, destroying him from within. As then, suddenly, Grand Scientist Dr. Erebus transforms into Grand Scientist Supreme Erebus and rushes forwards, landing a combo of devastating blows on true Grand Phoenix God Emperor Cato. The power of his fists, now imbued with the essence of the abyss, strike with the force of a meteor shower. Each hit sends shock webs through the air, and the very ground beneath them cracks and splits. True Grand Phoenix God Emperor Cato stumbles back, his flaming aura momentarily faltering. True Grand Phoenix God Emperor Cato's aura then fixes itself as he truly absorbs the Phoenix Flame Catalyst and Inferno Ignition Core within him, making the aura his own and causing him to ascend even further, becoming true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato, as he then trades blows with Grand Scientist Supreme Erebus, matching him in might while not even really trying. The battle between the two is unlike anything the world has ever seen. A clash of titans that makes the very fabric of reality tremble. Their fists meet with the force of a supernova, each strike sending shock webs through the air that could level cities. The ground beneath them is now a molten wasteland, a testament to the intensity of their conflict. Then, true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato begins actually trying, and even Grand Scientist Supreme Erebus ends up impaled, unleashing all of his power into one beam, one which damages true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato. But he regenerates from it and just grows again massively more powerful. Then Grand Lord Lothar charges up the strongest charged attack that has ever existed, and absorbs it into himself and rushes forwards, actually being evenly matched with true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato, but being far faster than him. The speed and power of Grand Lord Lothar's attack are astonishing. He seems to be a blur of light and shadow as he darts around true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato, delivering rapid strikes that threaten to overwhelm the Phoenix deity. Their battle is a dazzling display of speed and precision, with each strike creating explosions that light up the night sky. Cato, now as true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor, is pushed to his limits, his fiery wings spread wide. He tries to match Lothar's speed with his own divine agility, his eyes flashing with the intensity of 1,000 suns. Yet, Lothar's mastery of shadow and light allows him to evade and counter with ease, their clashes sending shockwaves through the very fabric of reality. True Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato, though, is continuously regenerating and catching up with Grand Lord Lothar, who then charges up an exponentially infinitely more powerful charged attack and blasts true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato with it seemingly killing him. But he then again comes back far more powerful and impales Grand Lord Lothar with both his Phoenix Blade and his Phoenix Spear, leaving Grand Lord Lothar nothing left to do but put all of his energy and life force into one final, ultimate charged attack, blasting true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato with it, and ending up destroying seemingly both with it. But then true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato comes back from even that, now just leaving him and the God Emperor Alpha of the new reality, who then, out of desperation, awakens even further into Shadow God Emperor Alpha and rushes forwards, actually capable of somewhat keeping up with true Grand Inferno Phoenix God, Emperor Cato, especially with the usage of his tendrils of darkness and light. Shadow God Emperor Alpha's form is a terrifying amalgamation of shadow and light, his eyes burning with the intensity of 1,000 stars. His movements are fluid and unpredictable, as he uses his tendrils to weave a complex web of attacks around Cato. The very air seems to bend and twist around them as they clash, their power resonating through the cosmos, though, eventually, even Shadow God Emperor Alpha is defeated, and true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato has seemingly won. But then Grand Emperor Alpha manifests onto the battlefield and smacks true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato with one of his own tendrils of darkness and light. Then Grand Emperor Alpha then fuses with his own new reality version, Shadow God Emperor Alpha, and ascends even further into Omnipotent Emperor Alpha. The air around them crackles with power as the two forms merge into one being, the room seemingly expanding to contain the immense energy. The light from the windows dims as the very fabric of reality bends to their will. Omnipotent Emperor Alpha now stands, a being of pure, unbridled power, a blend of shadow and light so intense it's impossible to gaze upon directly, as Omnipotent Emperor Alpha then smacks true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato into the air, and appears in the air to meet him, going so fast he isn't even moving anymore, just appearing where he has decided to be. True Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato then stabs him, but he doesn't. Grand author James, I didn't write that. What the? Omnipotent Emperor Alpha then repeatedly stabs true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato with his infinite tendrils of omnipotence, them no longer being of light or darkness, being beyond both concepts as a whole, and now being just pure power. The once unbeatable Cato, now impaled by these tendrils, looks surprised, his fiery aura flickering and diminishing. The tendrils of power pierce through his very essence, disintegrating the ashes of his phoenix form and dissipating the flames of his anger. His once confident smirk fades into a grimace of pain and disbelief. Omnipotent Emperor Alpha then completely erases true Grand Inferno Phoenix God Emperor Cato from new reality as a whole, completely erasing him, then bringing back all those he had slain with a snap of his fingers.
Part 5, True Peace at Last. The battlefield, once a scene of fiery destruction, is now a tranquil tableau of life restored. The leaders of Europe, the elemental avatars, and even Mordecai's and Ed legions rise again, their wounds healed and their spirits lifted by the sheer power of Alpha's will. They stare in awe at the being that stands before them, the embodiment of their hope and salvation. But even then, there is one person who isn't brought back, that being the God Emperor Alpha of the new reality, who has been fused with Grand Emperor Alpha to form Omnipotent Emperor Alpha, leaving him now to be the Alpha of the new reality, of the existence known as Alpha, and to fill that role and even now have something he himself never truly had, a family. And thus, peace eternally reigns, truthfully this time, at least in this reality, as there are infinite others out there. Grand author James. And, well, we are gonna explore them soon in the upcoming spin-off series, AI Invasion, What If? The End.